Janelle stood on the cracked sidewalk outside the grocery store, clutching her toddler's tiny hand. The sun was setting, but she barely noticed. Her eyes kept scanning the parking lot, searching, hoping to spot her car, but it wasn't there. Her breath caught in her throat. Her car was gone, stolen. She blinked, refusing to believe it. She thought maybe she'd made a mistake, maybe parked somewhere else. But no, she knew exactly where she'd left it. Right there. And now, nothing. Her heart pounded. The fear bubbled up inside her chest. How would she get home? What would she do? Her toddler tugged at her fingers, sensing something was wrong. She forced a shaky breath and pulled out her phone. Hands trembling, she dialed 911. "Hello, my car's been stolen," Janelle said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm outside the grocery store on Main Street." The operator was calm and told her help was on the way. Minutes later, a police car pulled up. A tall white officer stepped out, his face unreadable. Janelle felt a flicker of hope. "Officer," she said, "my car, it's gone. Someone took it." She watched him for a reaction. Instead he laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that cut through her hope, like a knife. "Stolen, huh? Are you sure you didn't just forget where you parked it? Happens more than you think." Janelle's face flushed with embarrassment. People nearby had stopped to listen. Some whispered, others glanced her way. The officer smirked. "Or maybe you couldn't afford it anymore and decided to walk. You know, people do that sometimes." Her hands clenched tighter around her toddler's. She felt small, ignored, dismissed, like her words meant nothing. The officer checked his phone, clearly uninterested. "There's not much I can do without more info," he said, turning away. "Call back if you find anything." Janelle wanted to shout, to beg for help, but the words caught in her throat. The laughter lingered in her ears as she stood there, helpless and humiliated, the parking lot empty where her car once stood. Janelle pulled her toddler close, forcing a smile for her little boy's sake. She didn't want him to feel the weight of the world pressing down on them. But inside, her heart was breaking. This wasn't just about a car, it was so much more. She thought back to the years she had spent fighting, working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep the lights on and food on the table. Long nights, early mornings, endless exhaustion. Every paycheck was carefully stretched, every dollar saved. That car was the first big thing she had ever bought for herself. It wasn't just metal and wheels, it was freedom. A way to get her son to school, to work, to a better future. It was proof that she was making progress, that her hard work was paying off. Now, it was gone. Stolen in a moment, and with it, a piece of her hope. She looked down at her son's innocent face. How could she explain to him that sometimes, the world was unfair, that people could be cruel, that even when you try your best, things could still go wrong? Janelle took a deep breath, and wiped a tear from her cheek. She couldn't give up, not now, not when so much was at stake. She needed to be strong, for him, for herself. But as she looked back toward the empty parking lot, she knew the road ahead would be harder than she ever imagined. Janelle watched the officer walk away, his smirk still lingering like a shadow over her day. The laughter, the dismissive words, they burned inside her, but she refused to let them win. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone again. She wasn't done, not yet. She dialed a number she knew by heart. "Marcus," she said softly. When he answered, her voice was calm but steady. "Someone stole my car." The officer didn't take a report, he just laughed at me. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then Marcus's voice came, quiet but firm. "Did he write anything down? Did he get your statement?" "No," Janelle admitted. "He said there was nothing he could do." Marcus's tone shifted. "Stay right there. Don't move. I'm on my way." Janelle felt a small spark of relief. Marcus was her husband, a man she trusted more than anyone in the world. He wasn't just anyone. He worked for the FBI. He knew how to handle situations like this. She looked down at her son, who was still holding her hand, watching her with wide eyes. "Everything's going to be okay," she whispered. The minutes stretched as she waited. the street lights flickering on overhead, and then she saw it, a black SUV rolling smoothly toward her, cutting through the fading light. Hope returned to her chest like a slow heartbeat. Maybe this time, someone would listen. Maybe this time, justice would come. Minutes later, a sleek black SUV rolled to a stop beside Janelle. The air seemed to shift. Out stepped Marcus, calm, composed, every inch the man she knew, but with a presence that commanded attention. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He simply walked straight toward the officer who had laughed at Janelle moments before. Without a word, Marcus reached into his jacket and flashed his FBI badge. The officer's face drained of color. The confident smirk vanished like it never existed. Suddenly, he was stammering, his voice shaky as he tried to explain himself. Janelle watched in silence as the man who had dismissed her with laughter now struggled to find words. His arrogance crumbled under Marcus's quiet but firm gaze. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He stayed calm, steady and professional. "Let me see your body cam footage," Marcus said, his tone even but commanding. "Your badge number, your full name." The officer fumbled, pulling out his badge, but avoiding eye contact. Around them bystanders, who had overheard the earlier laughter, now stared in stunned silence. Some pulled out their phones, filming the exchange. Marcus continued, "You just violated several codes, including neglect of duty and civil rights violations. Dismissing a report like that, especially based on who she is unacceptable and illegal." The officer swallowed hard, his earlier bravado replaced by fear. He glanced around, realizing he was no longer in control of the situation. Janelle felt a strange mix of relief and vindication. For once, she wasn't invisible. For once, her pain mattered, and Marcus, her husband, was the reason this moment was turning around. After the tense exchange with the officer, Marcus took Janelle aside, away from the curious eyes and whispering bystanders. His voice was low but steady. "Janelle, I need to ask you some questions," he said gently. "When did you last see your car? Did you notice anything unusual?" She told him everything. The time, the spot, the strange people she'd seen hanging around the parking lot the day before. Marcus listened carefully, nodding. Then he pulled out his phone and opened a secure FBI app. With a few quick taps, he began tracking the vehicle's last known signals. The FBI had access to advanced tools, ordinary police didn't. Minutes later, a location popped up on the map, not far from the city, in an old industrial area. Marcus's expression darkened. "This isn't random," he said quietly. "Your car was stolen by a ring. They deal in luxury vehicles, stealing, altering, and trafficking them across state lines." Janelle's stomach tightened. It felt personal now. This wasn't just a random crime. She had been targeted. Marcus reached out and took her hand. "You didn't just get unlucky," he told her firmly. "They chose your car because of where you parked, because they knew it would be easy." He pulled out his phone and dialed. "I'm calling in federal backup. We're going to get your car back." Janelle felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. It was frightening to know the truth, but comforting to have Marcus by her side. "This is bigger than just one stolen car," Marcus said, "but we're going to make sure justice is done." Within hours, Marcus and a small FBI team moved in. The warehouse was hidden behind rows of old factories on the outskirts of the city, dark, grimy, and quiet, except for the distant hum of traffic. Inside, rows upon rows of stolen cars sat parked in tight lines. Janelle's heart jumped when she saw her car, a little beaten but still intact, parked among them. But it wasn't just her car. Dozens of other vehicles, some with altered vehicle identification numbers, were lined up like trophies. It was a well-organized operation. Marcus and his team arrested multiple suspects. Some were well-known criminals with long rap sheets for car theft and trafficking. Others were quieter, shadows in the underworld. But the biggest shock came when Marcus confronted a man in uniform. A local cop. Not the officer who had laughed at Janelle on the sidewalk, but someone from his own department. The betrayal stung. This officer was part of the ring, helping to choose targets, tipping off thieves and protecting the operation from inside. Janelle couldn't believe it. Her car had been targeted because she parked in what they called a soft target zone. a place known by the corrupt cops and criminals as an easy pick. It was chilling. The very people sworn to protect the community were using their positions to exploit it. Marcus turned to Janelle, his expression serious but reassuring. "This is why your report was dismissed," he said quietly. "They wanted to keep this quiet." Janelle's pain ran deeper than before, but now she also felt a fierce determination rising inside her. She wasn't going to let this go. Not now, not ever. After the raid, Marcus didn't stop. He filed an official misconduct report against the officer who had laughed at Janelle. The department couldn't ignore it. Within days, the laughing officer was suspended pending a full investigation. No more dismissing victims. No more laughter when someone's world was falling apart. Janelle got her car back. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers again. The police chief personally called her with a heartfelt apology. "You deserved respect from the start," he said. "We failed you. And we are committed to making it right." The entire police department came under a microscope. An independent investigation was launched, focusing on how public reports, especially from minority communities, were handled. Janelle's case became a symbol of a bigger problem, shining a light on the bias and neglect that had been allowed to fester for too long. Local news outlets picked up the story. They praised Janelle for staying calm in the face of humiliation, and praised Marcus for using his position to fight for justice. Many viewers saw this as a victory not just for one woman, but for anyone who had ever been ignored or dismissed. But even as the headlines celebrated the arrests and the apology, Janelle knew this was only the beginning. True justice wasn't just about getting her car back, or punishing a few bad cops. It was about changing a system that had failed so many, and she was ready to keep fighting. That night, after the chaos settled, Janelle sat on the couch with her phone pressed to her ear. Her sister's voice came through, soft and tired. "It wasn't just about the car," Janelle said, her voice shaking with a mix of sadness and anger. She clutched the phone tighter, trying to keep her emotions steady. "It's about how they see us, like we don't matter, like when we ask for help, we're invisible, like our pain isn't real." On the other end of the line, her sister's quiet sobs broke through the silence, filling the empty space between them. Janelle could hear the weight of those tears, the years of shared struggles, and unspoken fears. "I never thought I'd be treated like that," Janelle whispered, her eyes filling with tears she tried to hold back. "Not in this day and age, but it's real, it's raw, and it cuts deeper than I ever imagined." She glanced down at her toddler, sleeping peacefully in the next room, the innocent face a sharp contrast to the storm inside her heart. The weight of everything, the humiliation, the injustice, the broken trust, pressed down on her chest like a heavy stone. "But I'm done staying quiet," she said firmly, voice steadying. "I'm going to speak out. For my daughter, for every person who's been ignored, laughed at, or pushed aside. We deserve better. We deserve to be heard." Her sister's voice cracked, thick with emotion. "You're so strong, Janelle. I'm so proud of you." Just then, Marcus came in quietly, and sat beside her. He wrapped an arm around her shoulder, grounding her with his calm presence. "You changed more than you realized today," he said softly. "Not just in that parking lot, or at the warehouse raid. You changed the way this story ends. You changed everything." Janelle nodded, tears stinging her eyes, but there was a flicker of hope growing inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew the fight wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready. Weeks passed, and slowly, life began to settle into a fragile kind of calm. Then, one quiet afternoon, a letter arrived at their door. It was handwritten, simple, honest, and it came from a stranger. The woman who wrote it said she had seen the video. The clip showing Janelle standing there, the officer laughing, Marcus stepping in, the arrests. She had watched it all unfold online, and she shared her own story. A story of humiliation, of being dismissed by those meant to protect her, of feeling powerless and scared. But unlike Janelle, she had never found the strength to speak up, to fight back. As Janelle read those words, a quiet power stirred inside her, a deep sense of how far she had come. She hadn't yelled that day. She hadn't screamed or fought with anger. She stood tall, calm, strong, and in that calm, justice came. Not with shouting or rage, but with truth. Her story was no longer hers alone. It had become a light for others, a proof that even when the world feels unfair and cruel, standing your ground quietly and with dignity can change everything. Janelle folded the letter carefully, her fingers trembling slightly, and looked out the window. The road ahead was still long and uncertain, but she knew this time she wasn't walking it alone. If this story moved you, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the strongest voices speak with calm, and sometimes justice arrives wearing a badge you didn't expect.